welcome to episode 21 of the Eternal Backlog Podcast. We have officially turned 1 year old, and I'm going to raise a glass because it's late enough here to raise a glass. We have officially turned 1 year on the podcast, over 250 videos, and we just celebrated it as well because right to the day we've had Nintendo's new hardware announcement. I'm here with Shady Armick.
Hello.
Shady, how did you feel? Let's go straight into talking Nintendo because that's what everyone's interested in.
Yeah.
Let's go straight into what is going to be a rather chunky segment talking about the Switch 2 for those that missed it. And it wasn't without its little foibles and technical issues as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Nintendo without some weirdness, wouldn't it? The Switch 2 is... I'm trying to think, were there any surprises just off the bat? I think the camera was a surprise.
Yeah.
That I didn't see coming. The way it connects to the Switch was definitely a surprise because common sense would suggest you connect it into the dock, right? There's a USB in the side of the dock. No, Nintendo don't do that the easy way. You've got to plug it into the top of the actual tablet part of the thing. It's a whole thing. So let me rewind a bit. Switch 2, pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be. Super impressive, especially with the third-party lineup. As a show, I know I'm going all over the place here, so you might have to reel me in. But as a show, as a whole, it seemed like it was divided into two sections. You got the first sort of 30 minutes that were really focused on the hardware and first party. And then the second half was really kind of their third-party collaborations and, those bigger titles that you would hope would come out on a Nintendo platform. And for the most part, they didn't disappoint. On the Jeff Keighley scale, I think you and I are in agreement. We both gave it a B.
Yeah, which we've underranked it compared to a lot of people. A lot of people giving it an A, but that's the Nintendo weighting situation there where people tend to grade it above what it would usually get. I don't know.
I think Nintendo have had... there's been a thirst for Nintendo for the last couple of years, and their directs haven't really been hitting as well as they should have been. So I think people were waiting for that one, and they kind of got it with that. So I can see why people would say it is an A. If I'm being objective, didn't have a Mario flagship Mario game. So that was a big no-no.
Yeah.
And the price, which we'll get onto towards the end. We've got to reel you along on the podcast, keep you listening to the end.
Exactly. You want to listen to... We've got some interesting pricing details. We've not just got the surface level console stuff here, guys. No. We've actually got the bits if anything messes up with your hardware when you buy it. And there's some eye-watering price figures in there. So we'll get into that. The show opens up itself with the reveal, and we did absolutely nail it on our predictions for Mario Kart World. We thought it was going to be called Mario Kart 9. But it makes perfect sense to call it Mario Kart World because, as we predicted, it was going to be an open world game. And I thought after seeing Lego 2K and they do their open world and obviously the successive series of the Horizon series, it kind of made sense that Mario Kart needed a jump. It couldn't keep to this linear, cup strategy. And that, for me, I mean, it sang so much on a quality level. And it finished, obviously, up. We'll talk a little bit about the Donkey Kong thing. But for me, those were the two standouts. You could clearly tell this big gap in generational quality that sits with those two games versus what is happening with Nintendo following both Xbox and PlayStation with these. We're going to do these upgrades. But we'll talk about that a little bit later because... it seems like Nintendo are at least going to try and do a little bit more on top compared to just graphical updates to some of these Switch-based games. So let's talk about Mario Kart to start off with. Do you want to talk Mario Kart or do you want to get into price first?
Let's do Mario Kart because that was really the only game we knew that had been announced previously with the teaser back in January. So we knew there was a Mario Kart. To be expected, people were a little bit skeptical. It looked a bit flat, looked a bit worrying. We saw 24 spots on the starting line, but there were only sort of 8 cars in the tech demo or teaser we saw. But all those concerns have been laid to rest. 24 cars, the visuals looked way better than what we expected. Like you said, it's an open world game following the likes of Forza Horizon. And what was it again? 2K...
2K, Lego 2K Drive.
Lego 2K Drive,
constantly harasses young players to upgrade to their Game Pass, their 2K Game Pass thing.
There you go. Battle Pass, Race Pass, whatever.
Yeah.
So Mario Kart looks amazing. What I did like, though, is that you can kind of drive to your next race rather than going through a menu system, which was a nice touch. I always wondered what would be the next evolution of a Mario Kart game, because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was such a perfect game. I mean, you really wouldn't go further in terms of visual fidelity because it is a cartoon-based kart racer.
Yeah.
But I think what they did with the open world element and the visual improvements there was kind of, okay, it improves the visuals, but it doesn't take away from what Mario Kart actually is. It's got that sense of speed. You've got the vehicles. You can grind now on certain elements of the track, phone poles, handrails, things like that. You got your standard carts, your boats, your flying, your planes. I'm trying to think. There was another one. I think there was a mine cart in there as well. I saw at one point.
Well, at one point we saw it. Did we see a cart drive into the back of a big HGV lorry or a bus or something? And
there was an 18-wheeler.
Take over the actual random vehicle that's on the road. So some interesting elements there as well.
I'm wondering if there's like a pass the baton sort of game mode. One person's the truck and the other person's the cart. If that makes sense, you just drive in the back and then you got an 18-wheel kind of carry on the next lap. That'd be an interesting. That'd be pretty good. But I think, honestly, Mario Kart really is the fully fledged tech demo for a lot of the new community features that they announced in the Switch 2, which everyone was wondering, what's that C button? We've already got a capture button. Is it chat? Is it community? Well, it's pretty much all of that. You hit that, you get a chat bar of sorts appearing at the bottom of the screen. You got your mute, you got your camera options. And yes, there is a camera, which I find really weird for a Nintendo system. Additional upgrade for $49.99 in USD.
Yeah.
You can get yourself the most 480p camera you can. Inspired by Logitech,
jank, right? It's
Logitech.
like old Logitech. They've just bought a whole bunch of old Logitech cameras that are out of date. I don't know.
It's definitely.
It looks like it doesn't look like it was any more better than the Kinect camera.
No, it's honestly, it's gonna be. Look, it's doing some sort of machine learning wizardry to get rid of your background, and there's some integration with Mario Party Jamboree where it kind of puts you in the game, and there's an upgrade pack that makes it look like you're coming out of warp pipes and stuff like that. So there is an element of Kinect-ness there.
Yeah.
And I think for kids it will be a hit. This is the perfect demographic for it. If Nintendo was sitting on a stockpile of cameras they needed to get rid of, this is the perfect way to do it. But yeah, so it looks like, and again, we can't say for certain, it looks like we've got a fully fledged online feature set. So we've got chat, voice chat, dedicated voice chat, video chat. We've got game sharing, which is a feature I've been asking for on Xbox for the longest time. So for those that don't know, if you've got a PlayStation 5 and your buddy's online, in addition to doing a voice chat, you can also view each other's screens in picture-in-picture mode. So if I'm waiting on a loading screen or whatever, I can look in the corner of mine and I can see exactly where you are or what you're doing. And we used it for a couple of games.
I think what's so unique about this as well is it seems like, at least from what we can see, that it's up to 4 people that you can do that with.
Yeah.
So on the surface, when you look at them, which we've got to talk about the frame rates because the frame rates are very... I mean, this is going back to... playing split screen with 4 people in a window back when you're in, offline console territory.
Bring in the N64
the frame
back.
rates were not great with 4 people doing it.
We're talking sub 15 here.
Yeah. But it opens up something that PlayStation and Xbox can't do currently. And that is, and it wouldn't surprise me if Nintendo does this because they're always good at finding new ways to open and explore new game experiences. But one of the things you can't really do at the moment is if you're playing an online co-op game and you're working together, but you're working on something that isn't, not directly in the same location as someone else, you can see exactly what the other person is doing. And I bet, honestly, I reckon Joseph Fares is kind of pre-thinking in the helmet, He's kind of like thinking, wow,
he's
actually,
leaking.
They might be able to do something, really cool with this. I like the concept of that. whether they can do something with the frame. I can't quite understand why the frame rate thing was as bad as it was, because surely that's a throughput problem, right?
I mean, I don't know if they're trying to save on system resource or if the system cannot simply handle it. But then again, they were also demoing it with 5 people in the party chat. So I wonder. Okay. Well, yeah, you had 4 people at the bottom plus yourself. So I wonder if, or maybe you were included in the 4. I wonder if it's just 2 of you, it'll be a lot better. But I've got a feeling, I've got a feeling that they're reserving a lot of system resource for games, and I think that's probably a result of it. You know, you can full screen it. Well, full screen, I say it's probably 70% of the screen. It sort of zooms in to kind of follow along if you're sort of done with your game.
Yeah.
I can see it being a fun feature. How often it gets used? Look, I'll say this: if anyone is going to do online party chat style games that will utilize this, it's Nintendo. You know, imagine sort of the Jackbox family of games coming to Nintendo Switch 2 with this, you know, and you can all see each other laughing and sharing a screen. It makes total sense. So there are use cases for it.
Oh, absolutely. And PC's having a moment right now with Repo, which it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up being on Switch 2 as well. I do have to say something on this, though, because what we don't have any confirmation with at the moment is there standard voice chat? Standard party, no video cameras, no screen obscured. Do we have full screen, just audio chat? Because that's how everyone plays majority of games. We didn't see that from Nintendo. They're leaving that question kind of unanswered at the moment. And that's a bit of a worry for me, because I don't want to lose real estate for the sake of seeing someone's static profile picture, you know?
I'm going to go as far as saying it's probably a given. There's going to be standard party chat.
Yeah.
I think they probably didn't show it just due to time restrictions, and they assume that everyone would already assume that there's a standard party chat.
Yeah.
But I'm just happy that it's natively built into the system now. And in saying that, we've got microphones on the tablet itself. So when you're in tablet mode, it's sort of, you know, a couple of feet away from your face. But the weird thing for me, and this is where it started to get, okay, well, this is typical Nintendo, is when you're playing it in docked mode, rather than the Pro controller, you know, again, Pro controller having a microphone built into it. No, they advertise the fact that the microphone that's 20 plus feet away from you on the tablet, docked, is good enough to drown out all background noise and focus just on your voice.
Yeah.
Look. Let's reel this in a bit. If this was Apple saying it, there'd be a bit more truth to that, and I'd be a bit more inclined to believe that they figured out how to do that. This is Nintendo. They've just sold us a 480p camera for $50, all right? I have zero faith that that's going to be the case. So in saying that, it's probably safe to stick to your little earbuds with Bluetooth audio, assuming that it's fully supported.
We still don't have confirmation of Bluetooth audio here, because the controller had a headphone jack.
It did.
There was no mention of Bluetooth. This is one of the highest requested features. I assume that it's going to be there.
I think, did the Switch 1 eventually get Bluetooth audio playback? But I don't know if it had
honestly,
the microphone.
I can't remember.
I think there was an update.
Possible. I played the Steam Deck so much I can get confused between that and the Switch Lite, so I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure Switch Lite have never, ever Bluetooth. Might be something worth you having a quick look to see if you can get that, because I just want to switch back to Mario Kart World briefly, because if you are wondering, you know, what are we looking at from a graphics upgrade comparison, this is night and day. It really is. Super beautiful, crisp visuals running at incredible frame rates from what I can see. No signs of any slowdown at all, even with 24 races on the track. And we saw a lot of slowdown in some of these third-party releases that, again, was something that plays the original Switch. But also, we've got night and day happening in Mario Kart for the first time, with weather effects that are going to be kicking around as well. And that kind of sunset, as you went into sunset on that was kind of like the real moment I saw, wow, you can really see the difference with that hardware boost with Mario Kart itself. So what's the answer on Bluetooth? It seems like you might have an answer.
Yeah, so in 2021, version 13 of the system update did add Bluetooth playback, but not microphone support.
Okay.
So again, you could have done it, but I think they probably didn't include it in the original launch because of battery. And again, that's something that I just realized. They didn't talk about battery life, or did they?
No, they did not.
They did not. So that makes me worried a little bit, because this is probably 5 to 6 times more powerful than the original Switch. And you talk about frame rate with Mario Kart, and that's a very good point, because sort of moving on in the order in which they showed this stuff at, we're gonna get 120 FPS on a Switch. And I sat there for a minute and I was like, oh great, 120, yay, the new standard. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, hang on a second, is there a use case for it on a Switch? And the only one I can think of is an online game like maybe Splatoon, maybe Mario Kart, but that's not as trigger happy as Splatoon would be. But then if the rumors are true and we eventually get Halo, then that's going to be a much welcomed feature, if you take the Switch as your primary gaming console. So yeah, a lot of things we didn't know. People were a bit dubious. Is it going to get a 4K output? Some dev kits said that there was only 1080 available, 4K confirmed with HDR. That surprised me.
Or 1080p without dock with HDR too as well.
Yeah, with 120 FPS support as well, which again is like, wow, okay. It does come with 256 of internal storage, which
higher than what we anticipated.
I was going to say 256, and then I said, well, it's Nintendo. They're probably going to do the absolute minimum. And I said 128 from 32 is probably like something they can brag about. Oh, 6 times improvement or whatever. No, they went for the full 256, but does not support the older SD cards. You have to get a micro SD Express card. So all those old SD cards on your original Switch will not work. So keep an eye out in your local cache converters if you want.
Because I've got a camera that needs those.
Well, they're going to be relatively increasing now that this has been announced.
The price,
so I would probably suggest ordering one today before they update their pricing on Amazon. But in terms of functionality, is this really sort of what you were looking for, or is there anything missing from that in terms of the hardware?
In terms of the hardware, it seems like it's pretty good. I think the one thing we didn't see today was we didn't see a great deal of the overall standard UX of the device. Are we moving away from Switch? Are we tuning into something that looks a bit nicer? What does the store look like when you browse and download games now? Because there was always this lagginess with the old UX and this time delay between the thumbnails of the graphics appearing up on the store when you scrolled it too fast, and just little things that you take for granted. But as soon as you go onto the Nintendo, you're like, don't get this on other consoles, and it's annoying me. I'd be interested to see how they address that, because that's something we didn't really see. They didn't go into detail about the UX of the actual console today.
What's interesting about that is normally the way we see console rollouts, and we've seen this for a number of consoles from various manufacturers over the years, is that we normally get the teaser, which is a good 6 to 8 months before the main announcement. That initial announcement, like the one we had today, typically is focused on the hardware capabilities. And then they normally time that announcement really close to a software season of sorts. So obviously, recording this, we're in April. Naturally, the next step would be sort of around the E3 time or the Summer Game Fest showcase time around June. But what they've done, and we're going to just skip to the launch date right here. They're launching this thing on June 5th.
Yes.
2 months away. 2 months and 3 days away. And I think that's amazing, because there was a concern that they're going to announce it now, have this drip feed of info up until sort of November, December, and launch it for Christmas. And it doesn't seem to have been the case, because everyone knows this thing's going to sell out. Everyone knows. It doesn't matter what they price it at. This thing is going to sell out. So all those hardcore enthusiasts will get it around summertime, be the beta testers as usual, and then Christmas, the mums and dads will get it for their kids. So there are, like you said about the UX, we got glimpses of it when it came to the game chat stuff. I did see some differences, sort of we've got this sort of rainbow effect now when you're highlighting a button or an icon now, instead of sort of the black circular line around the edge of the button. So there are slight improvements. I personally didn't have, apart from the eShop, of course, and the fluidity of the whole thing, I didn't have issues with sort of the Android-based system it was currently built on because it was really fast and fluid. And I think for a console, being a handheld with a very sort of small battery life, that's what you want. And even on a mains powered device like a Series X, the UI is horrible on that thing.
Yeah.
It's so slow and laggy, and God, the last thing I want is a
my
Windows
problem
powered
is
portable
problems
device.
arise the moment you go online to do anything on the original Switch.
Yeah,
You know, once you view that store, all of a sudden it becomes clunky, and
yeah.
it's, you know, that's where I'm hoping it gets better.
I think going back to some conversations we had maybe 5-6 years ago even, we always had the sneaky suspicion that the eShop wasn't an app. It was just a gateway into a web page. So I think knowing that, there's probably some of that code they can mitigate by making it built into the app. And then just the pure contents, the text, the videos, and the graphics probably could be pulled through in web fashion, stream it through. But it felt like the entire shop was web-based on the original Switch. And that makes sense from the standpoint of updating it. You know, if you've got new games or you need to make a tweak to the store for whatever, a bug fix, makes a lot of sense. You don't have to deploy a system update. But as we saw as time went on, software limitations, hardware limitations, it became a very clunky web page. So I have a feeling that being the moneymaker of the system, that's going to get a lot of attention. I 100% believe that.
Yeah. I have to. So there's obviously certain things we still don't know about this at the time of recording. Are they going to hold it back and make us all pay for it with the Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour? So for guys, if you don't know what this is, when you buy a brand new PlayStation device, you get Astrobot's Playroom, or you know, you get this complimentary experience for a new console that teaches you everything about either a new controller or the new features of an actual console itself. Nintendo have decided to buck the trend here, which is starting to bend people's noses out of shape, and rightly so, in the fact that they're going to sell this as something completely separate, as an add-on, and it is, I mean, it's a bit of a stink to that for me. I'm not quite sure I think that's the right way to go. They should have bundled it onto the hardware itself.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much information they will actually make available when this thing releases in order to sell.
I don't even think you really even needed the game.
No, I know.
You could have just had like a help button somewhere with like a PDF. Like, magnets are here and this is how you connect it. And we did this because, you know, make it like an interactive PDF or something.
Yeah.
But then again, they did it with the first Switch. 1-2 Switch was exactly that. It was a series of tech demos and mini games that you paid $50 for.
Yeah.
So this is typical of Nintendo. There's always going to be those one or two things that Nintendo do that we're going to sit there and go, seriously? Seriously? And in typical Nintendo fashion, this game will never go on sale. So it's going to be $69.99 or whatever it's going to be priced at for the life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they mentioned there's obviously three different things going on here with the Switch 2, as we're seeing this convergence between basically hardware merging generations in a way. We saw it with Xbox, we saw it with PlayStation. So there's 3 games. There's a set of games that are Switch 2 only. You can't play them anywhere else. There's Switch titles that have had upgrades to them, whereby we don't know what it's going to cost currently. So Mario Party Jamboree is a good example. Nintendo are doing updates graphically. They're obviously going to put in new content to the game as well that makes use of the device's new features aptly, both the voice and also the mouse pointers. But we don't know what the price is going to be for these upgrades, and I'm really intrigued to know that if you own the Switch version of that previous game, it doesn't look like a $10 upgrade to me.
It doesn't, and knowing the price of the system, which we'll tell you right at the end of the podcast, I've got a feeling these are going to be around $29.99. It's not going to be competitively priced, and I say that for a couple of reasons. One, Nintendo are not just going to sell you a $10 graphical upgrade patch like PlayStation do. They're bundling it in the package of, in the guise of value. We're going to give you more games, skins, levels, and expansion pack. Oh, and the technical upgrades are in there as well. So given that there's extra work and there's extra content per se, I don't think it's going to be a $10 upgrade. I got a funny feeling it's going to be around $29.99. I really do. So if you've got a Switch 1 game that has an upgrade patch, it may not be worth buying that patch unless you're like a diehard fan. However, if you don't, and you want to, for example, myself, I've never played Tears of the Kingdom, I'll go straight to the Switch 2 version and get all of that for the full price of $69.99. There it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I would have paid that for the Switch 1 version alone anyway. So it really comes down to how much disposable income you have. But a number of these games, got these patches to be expected, because this is the Wii U equivalent of the Switch, has to be backwards compatible. Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom both get upgrade patches. Breath of the Wild is an interesting one. I didn't see that one coming. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, we said this in our last reaction. The game that they showed during that stream looked very low res in terms of the textures. But of course, this is getting a Switch 2 version. And I'm going to assume this is going to be the predominant way that game is going to be played.
Yeah.
And quite rightly so. With the mouse support, that looked great.
Again, I want to talk about this mouse situation before we go on to anything else, because, I would say the overwhelming majority are going to have this docked in their living room, telly, or their bedroom in a environment which is TV on a either hooked up to the wall or TV on a TV cabinet. So the big question that I have is, what exactly is going on with this? Because you can understand from a more handheld perspective of playing a game that you would use these mouse pointers, but some of the games that they're offering mouse support with, you would never really play a game necessarily in that in a handheld mode. So, and also if you are playing a game in handheld mode, are the controllers not actually going to be slapped back onto the system?
Yeah, I think this topic has been blown way out of proportion. Look, at the end of the day, the Switch is an adaptable system, right? It adapts to how you want to play. If you want to play it docked, there's an option. If you want to play it in portable mode, there's an option for that. If you're a streamer, and I think this is where they're going with this, you're a streamer sitting at a desk hooked up to a capture card and you're on live Twitch, then you've got really no excuse because you're going to be on a desk. But even if you're on a couch and you want to play a mouse-based game, there are hard mouse pads out there that you can put on your lap. So I think that, in typical internet fashion, there's a lot of people out there going, oh, it's stupid, you're sitting back on a couch trying to use a mouse. Look, I get if that were the case for every game, but 99% of the games are not going to be that. They're going to be traditional pro controller style games. And if you want to play a game that really benefits from that mouse support, you're going to find a way to make it work for you. I really think it's that simple. You look at the original Switch Unveiling trailer. There was a girl on a train, a guy on a plane. There was a bunch of friends in a basketball court sitting on the floor in a circular motion. I actually went back and watched that.
Now we got basketball. Wheelchair basketball.
Now we got wheelchair basketball, yes. Why didn't you talk about that? Because that one caught me off guard. that real world application where
the first game to utilize both the mouse controllers
simultaneously.
Yes. It's going to be a wheelchair basketball game. I mean, look, no one saw that coming.
I don't even think the wheelchair community saw that coming, if I'm honest. But I'm trying to tread very carefully here. Look, gaming's for everyone. Let me just get that out of the way, right?
Yeah. It's just a little unexpected. It catches you surprise. That's what it is.
Yeah, I just wonder how
many people are going to be interested in it.
Yeah, how well this is going to be picked up. You never know. This could be the next Rocket League, and all of a sudden, it's cool to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
I don't know, mate, because the world is a weird place. On the flip side, you're going to ruin your desk sliding those Joy-Con around all day.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go to IKEA and get a new table. Shred desks. They're going to start selling desks soon.
Start putting... With the thing, I don't know if you've ever played shuffleboard, but you can put like this salt or chalk on the board.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder if there might end up being people using like certain hacks to reduce the friction between the controller.
Well,
Stuff
the
like
Joy-Con do have those little plastic bits that you put on the end, like the first one did, that
Yeah.
apparently gives it a bit more surface room to glide on. But hey, I mean, Nintendo are going to be the face of the company that do this stuff, you know? So
Yeah.
if it works, fantastic. There's a game for that audience. If it doesn't work, it's going to be one of those things we talk about 10 years from now at the Switch 3 announcement and go, God, I wonder what the next set of Joy-Con are going to... Yeah. So, yeah, each to their own.
I've got to say, out of all of the Switch 2 upgraded games that they talked about today, the ones that are actually getting the graphical upgrades, the biggest disappointment for me was the Pokemon Legends ZA. I just randomly put up a 30-second clip last night, our reaction from the last Nintendo Direct, and it's just done gangbusters for some reason on Instagram. So, was I super impressed with what I saw in terms of the footage for ZA on the Switch 2? No. So the concerns are in, because I thought, yes, graphically compared to Arceus, yeah, it looks much better because it's set around the city. There's more stuff to see. There's a bit more polish in there. There was some really horrible artifacting in Arceus and stuff like that. But no, that was the one game I struggled to see that Switch 2 hardware adjustment on the Pokemon game. I couldn't see it. It looked like the same game to me.
Yeah.
But then we are talking about Nintendo who put an audio layer on one track and the video on another track. Maybe they put the wrong footage in. I don't know.
I can almost guarantee that there isn't technically an upgrade patch for Pokemon ZA. I reckon it's just the native game running on better hardware, and it just benefits from a better frame rate and resolution. Honestly, I honestly think the hardware alone is doing all of that. Who knows? I mean, there are still... Look, let's just run through the list real quick, right? We got Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdoms. These are upgrade patches. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I'm going to say this is even a native game. Forget an upgrade patch. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, plus the Star-Crossed World upgrade patch. Mario Party Jamboree, and Pokemon Legends ZA. They didn't even talk about a Mario Odyssey upgrade patch, because that game suffered from some real bad frame rate in certain areas, especially the sand and the sort of deserty areas. Digital Foundry did a whole video on this, and the dynamic scaling resolution dipped really low in those areas to the point where it looked like a 480p game. But we didn't get any Super Mario announcements at this conference, so I got a feeling they're going to save that for the Nintendo Direct around Summer Game Fest time. They're going to make a whole Mario 15-minute section where they're going to talk about the new flagship, the old game. Heck, we're going to even upgrade Galaxy or something, or Sunshine. You know what I mean? They're going to just really go ham with it. So I got a feeling they're saving this for a big, wholesome announcement. They did what they were supposed to do, realistically speaking. You know, this is a Switch 2. It's going to be a better version of the Switch that's out there. People want these games. There are a lot of people. Look, it's the best-selling console out currently. Yeah. So for a lot of people, this is their primary gaming platform. So while for some hardcore gamers like myself and even you, we may sit there and go, oh, Elden Ring looks crap on that system. It looks really sort of sub 30 frames per second. That may be enough for certain people, you know? They don't care about the fidelity. And we've seen time and time again that fidelity doesn't matter. Heck, look at Monster Hunter. Looks like absolute you know?
It does, yeah.
But it's one of the best-selling games at the moment.
Yeah, true. So Nintendo Online did get some love.
Much needed love.
Much needed love. Part of me wonders whether with Switch 2 coming out, and these new features. There was interesting actually. It says something about the game chat, the video game chat. It said in open access until 2026, which tells me this is going to be a paid feature for Nintendo going beyond. So they're letting you get 12 months access to this for free, and then they're going to make sure that you at least have some form of tier level subscription for Nintendo Online to be able to do this.
See, the way I read that was it's going to be free regardless of whether you've got Nintendo Switch Online. After the 12 months, you have to have the online, at least the base level, to get the chat features, which is normally how it works. They're sort of using it as an enticement period, but also a beta test period as well, because it's the first time they're really doing this. And that makes sense. They did the same thing for Nintendo Switch Online on the original Switch. Remember that thing? God, we didn't get a paid subscription probably for about a year as well. Until a year after that.
So, obviously, that element of it. We've also got GameCube games coming to Switch too, as part of the Nintendo Online. And we've obviously got F-Zero GX, which is great. Just still waiting for that first, the new one, F-Zero game.
Could still happen.
It could, potentially happen. We had Soul Calibur 2 in there.
Luigi's Mansion.
I think so. The one that was missing was Eternal Darkness, but we assume that they're going to try and, they'll add more stuff as it goes along. But a bit of a surprise one, because that would be the one that everyone would be wanting to be there first. But
it was a surprise, but it also heavily leaked, like a week leading up to this. We knew it was coming. The GameCube controller actually leaked as well, with FCC filing documents and everything. But I said something during the reaction video. And I was like, timing is everything. Who wants this now? Because the majority of games that came out on the GameCube have either been remade or remastered. So is there actual demand for going back and playing these original versions? Wind Waker got a remaster.
On the ones that never got the remaster love, right?
Right, but Wind Waker got a remaster.
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
I mean, like the Time Splitters game there, the Time Splitters series is just waiting to be plucked. None of those are on there, I don't believe.
Yeah. So all of those games have got remasters or remakes, and it just felt like filler content to try and get people to upgrade to the Switch Online expanded tier or whatever it's called. So I didn't quite get it. It's nice to have. I mean, look, I'm all for game preservation, but again, timing is everything. Had this come out sort of 4 or 5 years ago, it would have been a massive hit. This is pre-Resident Evil 4 remake. That would have been an obvious hit. Wind Waker, Luigi's Mansion. I mean, we got the 2 remake and then the 3 shortly followed after that. I don't know. What was it, like 6 games they announced? It wasn't really much.
Made a couple more than that, but nothing that really piqued my interest.
I was more impressed with the controller, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, it does have that chat button on the back as well.
There you go, the C button, and it's wireless as well, which is all the hype.
I don't know. I never really liked that controller that much, to be honest.
Well, coming from an N64 controller, it was a welcomed addition, going back to a more traditional, solid feeling controller. But I think the system as a whole didn't hit the way it was supposed to.
I love the N64 controller because I was left-handed. It just perfectly worked for a left-handed person.
That's what they were going for.
Yeah.
After a year, that analog stick was hell.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. That's a great opportunity to segue to Nintendo's... they skipped over the whole quiz. We know that stick drift has been an issue plaguing not only Nintendo, but also Xbox, but predominantly Nintendo. They didn't say anything about...
There's an active... Hall effect. They've got an active lawsuit right now, a class action lawsuit going on in several regions of the world about this because it's so bad. So bad.
Yeah.
And in case, for those that don't know, stick drift is when the copper contacts on an analog stick. So the analog stick, I'm going to get real technical here. Analog sticks work with an X and Y axis, right? So there's 2 metal contacts. You move the stick left, this one moves. You move the stick sort of up and down, this one moves. Diagonal, they both move like that. When the 2 contacts get worn out, they stop making connection and the system doesn't know what position the analog stick's in. So it kind of assumes it's going in a certain direction, hence why it sort of moves in either a left, right, up, down motion. Stick drift. Naturally, the next evolution of analog sticks, and keyboards have gone this way, is using magnets instead of physical contacts that wear out. So when the magnet moves, it detects, the magnet's positioned over here now. And because it's not touching, it never wears out. Well, they made a big song and dance about the fact that the Joy-Con's a magnet, and they even made a game that they're charging $49.99 for to show you where the magnets are. So I find it very suspicious, even, that they didn't talk about it in the analog section. They mentioned that it was larger. That's not what people care about right now.
No.
Hall effect. Mechanical keyboards are doing.
I mean, this is Hall effect. Even the Dreamcast had a Hall effect.
Oh, it's worrying. And what are they charging? They're charging $90 for a replacement pair of Joy-Con 2. Not cheap.
It ain't. No, that's ridiculous amounts, really.
Yeah, so that's one of my that's going to be up there on my concern list. The battery probably number 2. I'll live, as will most people, if the battery still hovers around the same 3-hour mark, because the internals have leaked and there isn't much space. The battery looks like it's around the same size as the original one. So either the system's got to be really efficient to get more juice out of it, but it's kicking out 4K, 120, HDR, bigger screen. I'm going to assume it's going to be the same amount, considering Nintendo didn't talk about it.
4K docked, isn't it? But
4K docked, yeah. 120 with HDR.
Portable.
Yeah.
So the jury's out. I mean, I can't see it going above the Switch, just given the form factor of it. You know, if you look at the size of the Steam Deck, you've really got to start to make it bulky to help with battery life. But
what's the Steam Deck battery life, actually? I never actually knew that.
Oh, gosh, off the top of my head, I can't remember. But it's pretty decent. It's definitely better than the Asus ROG, right? Tends to last me quite a bit.
Let's find out. I'm doing a little search right now.
But it also is dependent on the game you're playing a little bit as well.
Oh, yeah.
And how resource heavy it is.
You're going to get a different result if you're playing Cyberpunk versus something like Balatro, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of Cyberpunk...
Speaking of Cyberpunk, we didn't get to see it because Nintendo messed their stream up live. But we do have Cyberpunk coming to the Switch too. So we'll be chomping at the bit after this record to have a look, see what it looks like. I don't think it's going to compare to the later versions of that release where they started throwing a bunch of graphical updates to it, you know?
And that's what worries me, because we remember those early versions, don't we?
Yeah.
So which is it going to be? A very bad...
I think it'd be stable, but I think it's going to miss a lot of bell and whistles.
I don't think it's going to be 4K. I think they're going to do the whole thing in 720. Yeah. Even docked. Docked and handheld, yeah. I mean, it's impressive that they got it working. Again, the stream messed up, so sort of 2.5 games we couldn't see. But... the fact that they got it running.
Red did something very similar. They managed to get The Witcher 3 working on the original Switch, but boy, did it look! It didn't look great. It really didn't look great. So I think Cyberpunk's going to be a very similar situation here.
You can bet your bottom dollar that it'll sell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. With an install base, what's the Switch at the moment? 140 million, I think. With an install base of 140 million customers, you damn right they're going to put everything on this system. Just to, it's minimal dev work for double the output in terms of revenue, you know? What else we got on the list? We've got Nintendo GameCube Games, a new game, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. This was a bit of a surprise. It's sort of bridging the gap between The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, and it's not, Nintendo aren't even making it.
Yeah. Oh, who's making it again? It was
Tecmo Koei.
Koei Tecmo, yeah. The Ninja Gaiden guys and the Dead or Alive guys.
Yeah.
Which was a very interesting choice.
Yeah, I didn't see... It was weird because if you look at the gameplay for that, there wasn't... Because I remember there was a Hyrule Warriors game before, right? So it's I in think the same that was into that. It doesn't feel like it's directly in. It doesn't feel like it's a Zelda game directly.
Hyrule Warriors. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was a fighting game, though, wasn't it?
I can't remember. It was kind of a little bit like
Hyrule Warriors. It
loved. It had loads of characters in it.
Smash.
No, they came out with it. An announcement a couple of months back.
Hyrule Warriors looks like a beat 'em up. I'm going to get slaughtered for this. Hang on. I've got to put a video on right now and see.
Okay. Whilst you do that, I'll cover the third party.
It's an open world game.
Third party game announcements here. Elden Ring has got a Tarnished edition.
aptly
They're
titled.
not even hiding it that it's going to be the low rent version of Elden Ring. They've called it the Tarnished edition on the Switch too.
Well, you know what though? They'll never get sued for underperforming.
No.
Because they'll just be like, look, we put it in the title. It's the Tarnished edition. It was all 24 FPS, you know? Oh, that was rough looking.
It was. I mean, if that's what it's going to be, I mean, it's a weird one because it's trying to get my head around that install base that are quite happy to play, and I'm not. It's similar as a PC gamer not wanting to play a console game because the frame rates are too low. This is the console snobbery equivalent to the Nintendo third-party stuff, where you're like, how can you play it on that machine? I tried to play Overwatch on the Switch, and I gave up after 15 minutes. I'm sure it would be perfectly playable.
Well, the good news is, it's a slow-paced game. It's not a fast-paced game whatsoever. So it might work. Who knows? It might not be as bad as we anticipated. Then again, we also got to take it with a pinch of salt because these live streams have really poor bit rates and frame rates probably really affected. But then again, in the same stream, we saw Mario Kart World, which looked amazing. So I can't really chalk it too much up to the stream. This looks like it needs a hell of a lot of optimizing still.
Yeah, we also got Hades 2, which is a very popular game. Street Fighter 6 on handheld.
Yeah.
So,
I had a feeling that would be announced, and it didn't disappoint. I mean, you're getting Fighter Pass 1 and 2, so the first 2 years of characters and stages and World Tour content are all included. I think that's phenomenal. One of my favorite games on the first Switch was Ultra Street Fighter 2, that 2D remake of the old SF2. They simply improved the graphics, made it sort of hand-drawn, and threw in an online mode, which was broken as hell because of certain characters, but fun nevertheless. So I'm really happy to see that Street Fighter 6 is coming to Switch.
Are you likely to buy it again, or?
You know what I found? I tend to find that I play fighting games more on a handheld than I do a home console. Because when I'm on a home console, I've got so many other more impressive games I want to experience. So the fighting games tend to take a backseat, at least after I've played the initial sort of run.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be, once it goes on sale, I might pick it up. Yeah, right, I'm not dying to play it, but because I've already got it on Xbox.
Yeah, fair play. I'm just going to rattle through the other third-party game announcements here. Hogwarts Legacy, EA Sports FC, Madden, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, Hitman World of Assassination Signature Edition. They're also obviously saying that you might not get the best version of it. I think 2K did WWE as well as NBA 2K.
Yep.
And then we got 5 seconds of a new 007 title, which we can't really say what anything like what that's going to be yet.
All they've got to call it is GoldenEye 2. That's all they've got to call it, and they've sold it. That's all they've got to call it. But it's Project 007, so they're trying to pull on heartstrings there.
Exactly. I'm just trying to think what else needs to be covered on the Nintendo side of things. I think we got very much.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of sort of games, they kept saying one more thing like 3 times. So we got Kirby Air Racers, which is being directed by Sakurai, who's the genius behind Smash Brothers. That one was a welcome addition. Wasn't the one more thing we were looking for.
No.
But then, of course, they came back round and they showed a new Donkey Kong adventure. Donkey Kong Bonanza. Looks very good.
Yes.
Very destructible environments. Why did I say it like that? Very destructible environments.
I don't know. It looks like...
God, it's early here.
Yeah, it's a bit too early to tell what exactly the premise is behind what you do in this game. But it looks to me like it could be partially open world also.
It looks like...
we don't know what you're meant to do in it at this point.
Well, I tell you what, it looks like they took the blueprint for Mario Odyssey and put Donkey Kong in it. Because that's exactly the vibe I got. Open worlds, semi-realistic. It didn't have sort of the Mario Kart cartoon Mario Galaxy aesthetic. It really looked like it was pulling pages from the Mario Odyssey book. But with the destructible environments, so you can kind of go underground. And I said this to you during the live reaction, finding collectibles are going to be a pain because you have no idea where they're going to be hidden if they decide to hide it underground and stuff, hide them underground.
Yeah.
But it's going to sell like hotcakes. And I think the last game was an interesting one. I was convinced they were going to show a flagship Mario game, which again, they didn't. We thought this was Resident Evil 4 because it looked like Leon Kennedy sitting in that chair in the beginning until they revealed that sort of thing on his hand, the mark, which for a minute there looked like the Umbrella Corp logo. But then the FromSoft logo pops up, and then we saw a Victorian London, and we thought, hang on a second, this isn't Bloodborne, surely.
Yeah.
No, of course it wasn't Bloodborne. No, of course not. It was Duskbloods.
But it seems to be, from what we can tell, possibly
from the universe.
Yeah, set in similar universe and possibly Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. I don't know. Or they just got the tabs to reveal it themselves.
It got marketing. I think it's marketing rights. Look, Miami's working on it, which is the original director of Bloodborne. Every Bloodborne community project, whether it was the PS1 demake or a remaster done by the community, has been pulled with a cease and desist. So we know that they want to do something. Rumors swirl around the fact that Miami wants to do it his way when he's ready and he's not working on other projects.
Yeah.
It's just, if you're spending time doing this, why not just give everyone the Bloodborne remake or remaster at least that people want? People are so desperate for this game that they are happy to accept a crappy looking version that's just 60 FPS. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
But it's capped at 30 right now, which is hard. I think lineup wise, we got what we expected. There were a couple of nice little surprises in there. Let's talk about pricing, shall we? Because this is where the surprises really were.
Right. Well, the pricing is interesting because it seems like that the
Trump tariffs are kicking
in the United States because there is disparity here. So let's start off with the UK pricing, $395.99 for the system only model, and £429.99 with Mario Kart World digital version included. And then we're seeing this weird jump. So just to put that into perspective, Mario Kart World will be releasing for $80 standalone physical copy. In the UK, if you buy the bundle, you're technically getting Mario Kart World for £35. So
which makes sense.
Much half the price almost.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Unlike our fellow brethren from across the pond, we've gotten a bit of the shaft over here. So the system on its own with no games is $449. You might be thinking, well, that kind of, correlates. Well, not really, because then over here in the States, you have to add tax onto that price. So you're going to be paying closer to the 500 mark once that tax is added. But if you go for the Mario Kart World bundle, you're going to be paying $499 plus tax. So you'll be looking at $550-ish, $545-ish maybe. So now you're starting to get into you're way into PS5 territory.
Yeah.
That's the hard sell here. But so I said, well, let me just get the system only and I'll just buy Mario Kart. Maybe it go on a sales eventually and I'll get it for a little bit cheaper. Yeah. Well, it looks like Nintendo said to Sony, hold my beer with their digital game prices, because what Sony did with digital game prices by pushing them up to $70, Nintendo has decided to take it a step further by making the new norm $79.99. $80 for a digital game. Oh, that's a tough pill to swallow.
It is, and this is the problem that once developers set a precedence, and this whole debate has been done with the new GTA 6, that you start to get companies who's been craving to do it but didn't want the bad press for doing it to potentially doing it. Saying that, though, Nintendo has always been a platform that has never been the place to get deals, right? It's like nothing really properly goes on sale. If it goes on sale, it's 35% off max.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, for those that want to keep their retail value in good check and good order, then I suppose that's a good thing. But it's not going to be easy to build up a good collection on this system given the price point.
And that's exactly why they announced those digital virtual cards. Get to play him for 2 weeks. Yeah, that was very surprising. They didn't even announce the price in the show. That's how bad it was. We had to scour the internet afterwards. Not even an AI ChatGPT could find the price. We had to go into the crux of the Nintendo website, sign in, click on a bunch of links that are in the footer, only to be greeted with that page. The accessories, though, and we said it in the beginning, you know, $90 for a pair of Joy-Con replacement is, wow, that's high. $80 for the new Pro Controller, $49.99 for the Nintendo camera, which that was a surprise. Don't know how good it's going to be, but whatever.
Well, I would go low rent.
Right, I'm there with you. But the biggest surprise of them all was $109.99 for a replacement Nintendo Switch 2 dock. The dock, an HDMI cable, a power cable, and a little power brick. Wow. You know, they did tote the fact that there is active cooling in there, so the system doesn't throttle, and that's fine, but I'm sure it isn't, you know, $50 worth of fans in there. But I think what tickles my, you know, gooch a little bit is the fact that there isn't a second USB-C port on the back of the dock. You still... I'm sorry, I can't get over that. The dock's 110, it's got active cooling, it's got a network cable, Ethernet jack built into it now, finally. But they couldn't be bothered to put a second USB-C port on there. Instead, it's reserved for the power. I've got to plug this port into the top of my Switch.
It just looks, you know, for someone who is... I mean, for me, it doesn't bother me because I'm not really a cable management person. But if you like everything tidy...
It's horrible, yeah, for me.
It's going to look horrible.
But look, let's just say there's some technical reason that we're not privy to. At least make the cable right angled so it's not, you know, straight, like bend it a little bit so it's neatly tucked away. I don't know. There's a lot
of... The cable itself's going to wear itself out from that bend.
And then you have to buy another $49.99 Nintendo.
Well, maybe that's part of Nintendo's business model.
That's part of the hustle. There you go. There we go. Pre-orders open 8th of April, 1 week from today. So next Wednesday. Question is, are you getting one?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, of course I'm getting one. Not only is my dock broken on my current Switch, so I can only play in handheld mode. It's a perfect time to upgrade. But no, I mean, I've seen enough just from Mario Kart that I want the new system. And look, it's going to be a console that matures over time. It's going to be a first-party option for me predominantly, unless they come out with games that haven't been remastered for PlayStation. Because I see a lot of PS4 games that will be announced in the future that will be making its way over. And we could see the best versions of these games for the library on third party that didn't do remaster treatment. And there could be some interesting stuff that falls out of that. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. And obviously Nintendo's first party stuff, and I can only wish that they will go back to the Wave Race and F-Zero thing, which we'll talk about every time we talk Nintendo. But yeah, there's enough there for me to warrant the upgrade. But it really was two games that kind of shone, and it was the Donkey Kong Bonanza and the Mario Kart game. Ironically, first party games that were the ones that shone the brightest. There is obviously going to be some third party Switch 2 exclusive games that do happen across the life cycle of the console. If you look back at the original Switch, Deadly Premonition 2 is a great example of that. Never found its way onto Xbox or PlayStation. So again, there's going to be these little things here and there that are going to be unique. And then the other thing that does interest me is if you were to look back to the Wii U days, what's the best version of Rayman Legends? It's on the Wii U because of all the unique ways in which you can play that game. That's where third parties could get interesting if they really harness some of the more unique components, similar to what they're doing with the PlayStation with the DualSense controller. There's another USP there. My biggest concern is, and I think you think it's a given, I don't necessarily think it's a given. This is the type of thing Nintendo could do. considering the guys released a standalone app to do online chat last go around, it wouldn't surprise me if they forget to just do standard audio chat with 100% of the game on screen. So that's my only kind of quarry with the system. I'm hoping, and I'm sure it will be confirmed. Someone's going to ask that question in the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely going to be a day one purchase as well. It's going to be an expensive day one purchase because you got to remember prices are a little bit higher here, and I'm also going to have to order one of those Pro controllers as well. It just makes no sense not getting one. For me, the standouts though, obviously Mario Kart World is going to be a day one purchase for me, as is Metroid Prime 4. I just think it makes absolute sense. Other little tidbits as well. Tears of the Kingdom. I never got around to playing that on my original Switch, so that will be... I don't know if that will be a day one purchase, but that will be a definite play at some point in the Switch 2 life cycle.
Yeah.
And then Donkey Kong Bonanza, when that gets launched, what is it, like a month after the Switch 2 launches? Mm-hmm. I'm tempted to give the online subscription another go round. I haven't played Switch properly for about a good 2 to 3 years. So there are a number of games that I missed that I want to get back into. You know, Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3. I keep talking about Luigi's Mansion. It really is a great game. There was... I still didn't finish off Yoshi's... I forgot what it's called. The one where you're sort of walking around the cardboard and that. That was really fun. Mm-hmm. I think Princess Peach got her own game. Zelda, The Legend of Zelda, sort of the top-down remake, and the sequel that featured Zelda herself. So there's enough there for me to say, all right, I'm going to get back into it. Kirby Air Racers looks like an obvious purchase. Smash. That was another one I'm surprised didn't get announced. Any updates on Smash Ultimate. We didn't get any updates in terms of an extra character or an upgrade patch or something to say, or we're improving the online netcode, because that was a bit problematic. We don't know what version of Wi-Fi it's using. Is it Wi-Fi 5 still, or is it Wi-Fi 6, 6E, 7 even? We didn't get any Microsoft announcements, not even Minecraft, which was a bit surprising. So unless they're banking on the fact that the original Minecraft will just work on Switch 2, fine. But there was a lot of weight around Halo dropping, at least the Master Chief Collection dropping on Switch. Who knows? Maybe in 2 months when we hit that summer showcase, when everyone does their direct, we'll see a lot more in the way of games. Overall, I think on the Jeff Keighley scale, I definitely rank it a B. Just reiterating that point. It just missed that one wow thing, and I think that would have been a flagship.
It needed that one little thing extra, didn't it? And I know maybe for some people, the fact that what's the game called? Silk Song, the Hollow Knight Silk Song was now been 100% concreted as being something that's going to happen. It didn't get any real limelight, but I know this is a game that fans have been crying out for a long time. Maybe that took it over the threshold for some people. I'm not sure, but for me personally, 100%. It's a B. I struggle. I just struggle a little bit to give it a B plus as well. Maybe had I saw the stream as I was meant to see the stream, without the technical problems, I may have felt like it was a B plus. But
but you're forgetting we're getting Borderlands 4.
We are. I don't know if we get the jacket free from
Randy Pitchford.
Randy Pitchford.
Yeah.
Dressing super.
I mean, I think Borderlands 4 on handheld could be amazing.
He was 2 steps away from looking like a full pimp. He really was. But
with a name like Randy, what can you expect?
Exactly. So that wraps up our, I guess, pretty detailed overview of the Switch 2.
Yeah.
We're both going to be getting one, and
Next
I
week.
I don't know if we'll ever do an unboxing. If anyone's going to do an unboxing of it, it ain't going to be me. I haven't got the place to make it look nice, but I think there's plenty of people that do unboxing videos. But again, it's am I going to use those online features on the new console? Probably for Mario Kart only at this point.
Yeah.
That could be quite interesting to play that.
Yeah.
Across the Nintendo
especially
online.
especially on the live streaming. I mean, what a way to celebrate our first birthday as well. I mean, we're what, 20, what is this, 20, episode 21 or 22?
It's episode 21, yeah.
21 podcasts. Might not seem a lot to people, but we don't release every week. We release bi-weekly, and in some cases once a month, you know, because we're like that. But over 250
happening, there's no point.
Yeah, over 250 videos. Definitely give us a thumbs up. We never asked for it, and I realized this last night as I was thinking about this stream today. Give us a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. You know, we're going to start pressing for that a little bit more now. We've been nice.
Yeah.
God damn it, you're enjoying the content. Hit a button for us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know whether did you want to cover our Playstack today, or do we just
Why
leave
not?
it here?
Why not? Let's do 5 minutes on it. Go on.
Let's do a quick fire on the Playstack then. I want to hear your thoughts. Firstly, we talked about this in private, but for those that have been playing Avowed, well, you finished the game, and there's an interesting element of this that if you are looking to go back and 100% complete this game and do all the side quests, you might want to really lock in that earlier save file, because for some reason this game doesn't do it according to what you said.
Yeah, so typically in an open world game, you finish the main campaign and it will kick you back into the world and say, oh, there's tons more stuff that you can finish, and there's side missions and secrets and collectibles and whatnot. Does Avowed do that? No. Once you finish that final mission, it boots you to the main menu again. Okay, I've seen that before. Let me click continue and get back my save file. No, it loads up the last mission again. Okay. Yeah. During the last mission, let me try fast traveling to another point on the map. Oh no, you can't fast travel right now. Crap, okay, maybe the final mission is so intertwined, I can't escape, whatever, fine. Let me load one or two because I progressively save, I make a new save file every time. Let me load one or two saves back before I started the main mission, the last mission. No, you can't fast travel there either for some reason. So it seems like on that last map, because there are like 6-7 different maps, mini maps within the world map that you sort of go into. On that last map, I assumed I wasn't able to travel because that's the final area. Fine. Common sense would suggest let me load a save file on a game before I got to that map. Fine. Did that. Got to the 6th map. No, you can't fast travel here either. That last mission, it's just kind of like worked its way in so deeply rooted that I can't. By the time I load up at an earlier save file, I'm half the character I am by the end of the game.
Yeah.
So I've got a ton of side missions and activities that I was planning to polish off once I get the main stuff out of the way. No, they won't let you do it. So I'm sitting on Avowed at the moment. Finished it on the hardest difficulty with about 515 gamer score out of 1,000, which is awfully low for me. And I'm annoyed by it. I started to really not like the story towards the end because it just wasn't interesting enough for me, that whole universe. But I stuck with it because the gameplay was good. Man, unless they patch this thing in, which...
Yeah, sounds like a Redfall moment all over again, ironically.
It really is. It really is. Like, how does an open world not give you the freedom to finish the open world after you finish the game? Oh my God. Yeah, so that really peeved me off.
Yeah.
So I wanted to play something a bit more lighthearted. So I picked up Plucky Squire. Had this game on my radar for a while. Gorgeous visuals. I really like what they've done with the whole comic or storybook element that you kind of pop out of the pages and go into the real sort of 3D world. You might have to go outside, grab an item, bring it back into the story to kind of progress. Really enjoyed that approach. What became very, very apparent as I got halfway through the game is there is way too many interruptions and dialogue options.
Oh, right.
Like every time you turn a page, you're presented with a bunch of story and you've got to read it and you can't skip it. You have to keep pushing sort of the X button to get through. Okay, then you've got 5 minutes of playtime on the page. You solve the puzzle, go to another page. Here comes with the story again. Oh my God. And these story moments just take up so much time. You're just like, I don't care anymore. I want to play. Yeah. So that was a real big annoyance.
Well, that's what I was. That's what I heard with the initial reviews of it. Cosmetically, it looked absolutely fantastic. So it's got that unique art style. But then there was just things of it that was just plaguing its gameplay. Apparently, it was a bit samey as well.
Yeah, way too many interruptions. They do a good job of introducing new mechanics, but it's every time they introduce a new mechanic, they have to now take you on a side quest to teach you how to use it. So you got to leave the storybook, go into the real world, find the mechanic, have some sort of a battle outside. And it's interesting enough to make you want to keep going, but it's also it's like someone constantly talking in a movie theater is the best way I can kind of describe it. It's like, just shut up and let me play already. Like I'm done with all these tutorials and story elements. So it was sort of give it like a 75 on the 100 scale. Or 70 even. It's good, but just be prepared for that if you like uninterruptions. And then obviously we're in Samurai season with the launch of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Got that itch to play Ghost of Tsushima. Yote comes out later this year, presumably before GTA 6, so we're probably less than 3 months away from that. Really been sitting in my pile of shame, my backlog, and I just
ages and I haven't played it.
I just had to get it done. I was gonna say to myself, let me wait for the Yote state of play because most likely they'll announce a PS5 Pro patch. I was like, I don't have that time to kill. I've got to get it done. So started it last night, literally. Put about 2 hours into it, and God, it's a good game. It's a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I thought the combat would be a bit more calculated. And there are calculated elements to it, but it's a little bit more in the vein of I can just go in swinging if I want to. So I did appreciate that freedom. Semi-hooked. I haven't gotten far enough into the story yet to be completely hooked, but from my first initial playthrough, I know this is shaping up to be something very special.
Oh, nice. Oh, not quite sure when I'll get to that, whether it be God of War first or whether it be that, I'm not sure.
Ooh, I'll let you know in about a week.
All right, fair enough. In terms of what I've been playing a mix of everything. Fire Girl DX, which was a 2D side-scrolling platformer game where you play as a firefighter and you've got to kill your enemies by blasting them with a water fire hose. That's about as much as you. And there's a bit of a time attack element to it.
I'm looking at your lineup, and it's just the iOS classics, isn't it?
Everything on there. Mullet Madjack. Was released on Game Pass over the last 2 weeks. This is very much, if you like Vampire Survivors, this is a roguelike FPS type situation. So you've got to make your way through various floors, and you play a guy called Mullet Madjack who is technically live streaming his kill count to followers and stuff. So there's a certain amount of artistry and nice stuff that you have to do to impress your viewers, and then when you make it through the level, you get different guns to do the next round of stuff. And depending on the way that you upgrade it, you're kind of built to fail to then get better and upgrade, like Vampire Survivors does. So imagine that in I'd say late Windows XP, but with, like imagine someone whacking a HDMI port on the back of it and up-resing it, graphics art style type thing. Pretty addictive. I wouldn't say it grabbed me like Vampire Survivors did, though, to be honest with you. But I definitely think it's worth a spin because it leaks G's. It leaks G's. So, I mean, it's literally like a faulty tenor pad. It is leaking G's really quick. So, if you like a game to score pretty quick, check that one out. I played a bit of Megabyte Punch, which was on the Steam Deck. It's a game from 2013. And it's a side-scrolling platformer game again, whereby you are... What's the best thing to describe it as? As a budget version of that Nintendo GameCube series called Beautiful Joe, but with much less impressive graphics. But you can actually upgrade your individual leg, arm, all of these different components to then change up how you take on enemies, and the idea is to clear all of the enemies in that particular world to go through to the next level. But I was enjoying that a little bit more than some of the games that just released over the last few years. It just felt like it had a bit more substance to it. I played a bit of Wheel of Fortune with the other half. Ubisoft we played one of your games again, and it was Wheel of Fortune. I don't really say much more than that. The one that I really want to kind of talk about is Peglin. This has been on my list for a long time. If you are a fan of Peggle,
Pegging.
Peglin is going to really interest you. Now, you can download and get 1/3 of the game for absolute free. I actually managed to use the backbone controller again whilst I was in the bar.
Comes up every episode. Just won't die.
Because no other device was charged. I was like, right, my iPhone's charged. I use my backbone controller. They've got Peglin on iOS as well as Steam, and well, it's just literally PC and mobile. But imagine you are playing a Peggle roguelike where the balls are upgradable and you've got different components and stuff. But then on top of that, you mixed Peggle with Puzzle Quest, where at the top you've got a line of enemies that you need to defeat, and depending your hit damage rate is based on how many pegs that you basically take out. It's pretty cool. I quite enjoyed it. It's pretty addictive to play. I'd recommend checking out if you're a fan of Peggle or if you're a fan of any roguelike game. At 100% check that out. It's a mixture of the two. I hit the paywall, and I don't know whether to buy it or not, because I did really enjoy it, but I'm not sure I want to buy an iOS version of it, because I know you can get a Mac OS version of it, and maybe I'll enjoy it a bit more on Mac, or maybe we'll actually at some point get a console port of it. Maybe I prefer a console port of it, but I'm kind of holding off. I'd be amazed if it's not on Switch. It's a perfect game for Switch too.
There you go.
But we'll see.
Adding value to your purchase next week.
There you go. Played a little bit of Forza Horizon 5. Just a couple of races, nothing more than that. And
Still getting it on PS5?
Sorry? I'll still be getting it on PlayStation, 100%.
Oh, there you go.
I will be getting it on PlayStation, no doubt about it in my mind. But I played it, I think when I was playing it via my backbone device on Xbox Game Pass. And on the Steam Deck as well via XB Play. It's a great game. Like, racing games are great to play on handheld formats. Yeah. To be honest with you.
Really are.
So I just played it on game streaming, which I'm not going to have once I downgrade to Core, which it takes effect as of middle of next month. So it's going to be interesting, because am I going to hit a point where I'm like, I really want to do this, where I like to maybe go up, have a bath or whatever for a few hours, and I'll play games in handheld format.
Have a bath for a few hours? That's a long bath. You get cold in there.
Well, the hot tap keeps getting upgraded. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see whether I get roped back into Ultimate just because I like the flexibility. Because I do a lot of stream play compared to yourself, I think. What with the Meta Quest 3 as well.
Yeah.
Xbox
I think I'm kind of almost at that point as well. So I mentioned to you yesterday, just very quickly, that I upgraded my PSN subscription to PSN Premium because I found myself waiting for sales. I had a bunch of games on my wish list that they were already part of the premium tier that I could just play if I paid like an extra 60 for the rest of the year or something. I was like, that saved me so much money. And then in doing so, I also found, as I was browsing through the catalog, that a bunch of my backlog on Xbox were a bunch of Game Pass games that are now on PlayStation Premium. So it kind of decouples me away from Xbox a lot quicker. There's still some flagship titles that I need to get around to playing that I have, saves that I'm in the middle of. But I think, so I'm not really interested in South of Midnight. I'm probably not going to play that, which comes out in a couple of weeks. The next big game for me on Xbox is going to be Doom Dark Ages. And that's in May, I think May 15th. I think once I'm done with Doom the Dark Ages, I'm probably going to cancel my Game Pass subscription. But stay tuned to the next episode of the podcast for progress reports and updates on that one. Yeah, exactly.
Indeed. And the last game I played was Atomfall, but I haven't played enough of it really to give you a full taster. I will say though, when I looked at Atomfall on the surface from the trailers, it's like, it's kind of interesting. Set in the UK, maybe it was the UK thing that was kind of the interesting thing at the time. There's a lot of love for this game that's emerging, by the way, and it surprised me in the fact that you can, at the beginning of the game, you've got multiple ways in which you can experience your playthrough. So if you want a less survivalist aspect, you can just focus on investigating and the game and combat. So I went kind of for that because I was like, do I really want to be jaunting through this, worrying about resources and health packs all the way through? I've already got that with Avowed going on at the moment, So I selected that. What's really interesting is that the story emerges. What's different about this compared to other RPGs that I've played is the story emerges itself based on you investigating the world. So you don't know exactly what the hell's going on at the beginning. You've kind of got to explore the world and marry different clues together to get a picture of exactly what happened. All we know is that some type of test thing has gone wrong at the beginning, because you can see that there's some post-nuclear apocalypse, in the background there's all this plasma and stuff going off, that something's happened. But it creates this mystique, and then there's people just loving the little touches to detail online, that if you go up a slide, for instance, in a park, you can actually go down it and all. I don't know why Moran decides to call that out as a selling point, but
Jess Corden as well, for some reason. That was like a highlight for us. Really?
I don't know, but I thought the combat was really sturdy from what I encountered. I thought that the world was interesting from what I've seen so far. Gave me very similar vibes to first escaping that castle hold in Oblivion. But I don't know how I'm going to feel 5-6 hours, because, the first 5-6 hours of Avowed, I was like, this is brilliant. And then after 6 hours, I've got a feeling that the storyline is probably going to be more interesting than Avowed. So it might be something to keep you on hold. Maybe something for me to go back to, next episode. But I feel like I do want to come back to this,
I did consider it because I did see the positivity around it as well. Like, in a nutshell, I kept hearing this is what Fallout should have been, or this is what Starfield should have been. But I think over the last couple of years, or especially the last year in general, between Starfield, between Avowed, it's just been RPG season. I'm a little bit done with RPGs at this time. That's why I broke away. I just want something that, like Plucky Squire or Ghost of Tsushima. I wanted that polish and that guaranteed 10 out of 10 experience. I didn't want to, there's been so many hit and misses this year that I'm just like, look, I'm tired of feeling disappointed when I walk away from a game. I just want to play it and go, yeah, that one needs to go up there in the Hall of Fame, Yeah. So maybe at some point I'll get back to it when I've got the itch, but probably by that, I say that knowing that Oblivion Remake is around the corner as well. And I'm going to be a hypocrite, but as soon as Oblivion Remake comes around, I'm dropping everything for that, because A, it's Oblivion. B, I never played Oblivion, and I know it's one of the better games out there. And C, it's a Unreal 5 remake. Like, it's got everything going for it. So maybe that'll turn things around, but hey ho.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll enjoy it. It was one of those mind-blowing moments of the 360 gen for me. So we'll see how it goes. We've got one last story I won't bother talking about. There's a visual upgrade for Minecraft. We don't really need to cover that.
We don't need to go into that.
Don't need to go into that. So we've obviously seen the back of the fallout of Assassin's Creed Shadows. So the gaming press gave it high ratings. On the opposite side of the spectrum, the user score is very, very different. User score is saying this is a very mid Assassin's Creed game for the most part. And the back channels, the rumblings are that this game isn't doing the numbers that Ubisoft needed for it to be able to pretty much stay above water. And as a result of that, we've actually seen a move here from Tencent into Ubisoft's IP space. And there is major restructuring news that a new subsidiary featuring Tencent, obviously China's biggest gaming market side of things, is going to be part of that subsidiary that features Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy series games. We assume Ghost Recon on top of Rainbow Six. We haven't seen any Ghost Recon stuff for a while. So Tencent are going to come in and invest 1.16 billion euros into this for a 25% stake. It'd be interesting to see what happens with these, because Tencent are going to take no BS in terms of this Western paralysis that a lot of game developers have done, in terms of, you just only have to see the China gaming market is, there's none of this infestation of this DEI stuff. So I wonder if this part of Ubisoft, which Assassin's Creed is guilty for it. I wouldn't. This Far Cry perhaps guilty for it. Don't think Rainbow Six is. But where we're going to see a pivot, where we're going to see Tencent actually say, look, you guys need to get back to basics and stop with this political shit, and actually get into making games that people want to play and characters that they want to play, not these fucking ugly characters or whatever the hell it is. Well, how do you think that's going to chalk up for Ubisoft? At least seems in the short term that it's going to keep them kicking around for a bit.
Yeah, to me, it just seems like it's kicking the can down the road. Ubisoft has so many IP that they could pull out of the back pocket, but they just don't. What's going on with Splinter Cell? People have been crying for the last 5 years about Splinter Cell. I personally wouldn't mind another Rayman. Yeah. You know, they could easily do another Rainbow Six Siege 2. That would sell.
Beyond Good and Evil 2, what's happened to that?
Well, there's that too. I mean, they did the, was it 20th anniversary version the other day? I don't know. There's something going on at that company at a core management level, because I do remember roughly about 5 years ago, Ubisoft were on top of the world. Their E3 conferences were one of the highlights. You'd have, I forgot her name, but she would come out, give a bunch of attitude, cuss the industry, and it would be banger after banger after banger, and then we get the weird performance by Jason Derulo or something, and a Just Dance game that no one cared about. But generally speaking, there were Hollywood actors on stage. Something happened in the midst of all that just really screwed everything up. Yeah. What that is, I don't know. But just pivoting a little bit, and this is unscripted. This is hot off the press because I do have X open as we record this. Okay. We talked a lot about the Switch 2 pricing in the US and the UK. How much is the Switch 2 in Japan?
No idea.
It's 49,980 yen, which equates to $334 US.
Whoa.
That is for the Japanese only version, which has the Japanese language only. But at the same time, in Japan, they also have a multi-language version. Yeah. Which equates to $467. So $130 more gets you more languages.
What? What?
How much are these linguists?
Oh my god.
So yeah, apparently there's that. Look, if that's the case, give me an English only version and save me $100. Yeah. I'm never gonna play it in French, Spanish, or German.
That's weird.
That is very weird. So I just found that interesting. But the Nintendo tax is real, live and kicking. Yeah, it seems. So there you have it.
Interesting indeed.
Anyway, I think we haven't promoted one for a while, but this week we're going to do a poll. Are you getting the Switch 2?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. How do you find the price? About what you expected? Too much? Complete rip-off? Skipping it? Let us know. And how do you feel about $80 games being the new norm?
Exactly.
There you go.
Thanks, Nintendo. Thanks for that.
Plenty to sound off in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Help us out. 1 year in. Let's bring this thing of ours, as they say in the Mafia, to the next level.
Indeed. Anyway, guys, that wraps up our 21st episode, our 1 year anniversary episode. Hope you've enjoyed. And we'll be back probably a few weeks from now, after we've spliced and diced the hell out of this content.
And pre-ordered it.
And we'll be back for episode 22. I'm not quite sure what the feature game is, and we know Hypercharge is coming up at some point, and we definitely want to do that one, but we'll keep you on tenterhooks. Until next time, ciao for now.